Archibald Gracie. Well, Archibald Gracie came to this country first in 1784. He settled down south, Virginia, but then he moved up to New York City. He was a shipping merchant in Dumfries, Scotland. When he came up to New York, his business really exploded. He became one of the wealthiest people in the city of New York. And what the wealthy people did in those days was build a house in the country. They wanted to escape the terrible conditions downtown. Now, it's only 5 miles from downtown, but this is the country. The only way to get here was by boat up the East River or through horse trails through the woods. The ground originally sloped very sharply down to the river. And just take a good look, because I'm more of a chilly. Take a look what's out there. Let's go inside. I'll continue.
There's actually 2 more rooms in the back, but they're exhibit rooms. But this hour, at the end of this hour, this room, these 4 rooms. These are the historic rooms that were furnished.
So before it was moved, when's the last time anyone lived in it?
I would say in the 1880s.
Yeah. And so it was just vacant somewhere?
It was going into foreclosure. People, that's why it was actually bought off by the church. St. Episcopalian bought it off. They wanted to use it as church until they built that structure, the block.
Oh, okay.
Smells like paint.
Yeah, fairly new. The house is a little bit long. Since it first opened, this home.
Two windows on each side, and the halls parallel each other, lower floor and upper floor. Columns and a pediment on that side, and not making any mistake. That's why. Exactly. American Revolution. Mary Phillips Morris brings the children up here in the spring of 1775, as she would every summer, but they then retreat to the Phillips family home in Yonkers because a fleet of British warships arrived in Lower New York Harbor in summer of 1775. This is going to be the battle for New York. In fact, the battle starts August 27, 1775, with the Battle of Long Island, what we now call the Battle of Brooklyn. This is essentially a 3-month campaign. Begins end of August with the Battle of Brooklyn, August 27th, continues until late November. Fort Washington, up at about 184th Street, falls November 16, 1775. Fort Lee, across the river in New Jersey, falls November 19, 1775. So, during those 3 months, Continental Army is pushed from Brooklyn across into Lower Manhattan, up north to Upper Manhattan, over into Bronx and Westchester, and then over to Jersey. At that point, end of November, New York is lost to the proto-United States until November 1783, when the British occupying troops leave and New York becomes an American United States. Time for General Sir Henry Clinton, the British officer, and General von Knyphausen. You could probably tell from his name, German? Yes. He was Hessian officer, so it was Hessian and British headquarters. To commemorate that, in the hallway, there's a portrait you may have seen on your way in. That is Prince Wilhelm IX of Hesse. We call the troops Hessians because most of those troops that were hired out to the British and fought in America were supplied by the Prince of Hesse, essentially as his indentured servants that he sold to the British Crown. That particular Prince Wilhelm was not the Prince Wilhelm who supplied the troops. This is his son. He was a military officer, but he did not fight in America. However, he is, in his original 18th century frame, his father was certainly involved in the Revolution. We think he's very appropriate to be on our wall here. After all the troops leave, the house is sold by the Committee on Emigres. Essentially, the Morrises have left. They've gone back to England. The house becomes a real estate speculation for the next 85, 95, 05, next 25 years, in fact. It has one visitation during that time period. George Washington comes back. What is George Washington doing in 1790?
You should be president.
Yes, he is.
She would, yeah.
You know, when you think about it, there's a lot of black money.
The house, as I said, was essentially a real estate speculator's paradise for about born in France of excellent family. And when you get someone who's told so many stories about himself, it's very hard to figure out where the truth lies. This is